All right, welcome back to Q-Tips. These are my opinions and my opinions only. Today we're talking about the 2025 Week 1 NFL slate, the early games, after reviewing all them. So, just to start, remember this was Week 1 of the NFL. Everyone loves to overreact and think everything that happened today is what's going to happen for the rest of the year. But remember last year, for fantasy football, there were plenty of wide receivers and running backs that had bad week ones. Jamar Chase, Amara St. Brown, DK Metcalf had 4.4 points last year. The next week, he was wide receiver 2 on the week. Marvin Harrison Jr. had point 0.9. The next week, week 2, he was wide receiver 1 on the week. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Derrick Henry only had 10 points week 1. Drake London, Puka Nacua was single digits. All I'm saying is, remember you drafted your guys for a reason. It's going to take at least a few weeks. This in the NFL, especially nowadays, that nobody plays in the preseason. September is essentially the preseason. So there were reasons why we drafted these guys in our fantasy leagues where we drafted them. And remember, the teams now are not going to be the same teams at the end of the year. That's in the NFL and your fantasy squads. Draft is only part of the fantasy football outcome. You need to be on the waiver wire. You need to do pickups, drops, trades, all that stuff. There's going to be injuries. All that stuff's going to happen. Same thing with the NFL teams. A lot of these NFL teams, new coaches, new schemes, they're still figuring stuff out. Like last year, the Patriots beat the Bengals in week 1. The Patriots picked in the top 3 by the end of the year. The Saints were amazing looking. After 2 weeks, they were the best 2 teams in the league. They were the best team in the league last year after 2 games. Now remember, and the Ravens started 0-2 last year, and one of those losses was to the Raiders. So anything can happen, and believe me, all these NFL teams are going to look different by the end of the year for so many different reasons. But with that being said, I want to start with the Chiefs and the Chargers back in Friday night in Rio de Janeiro. I actually thought this game, similar to the Eagles-Cowboys game, changed basically on the first drive. As soon as Xavier Worthy got hurt, that was a huge change in that game. The fact that Hollywood Brown had 15 targets was not part of the game plan. The game plan was heavily to feature Xavier Worthy. And when he got hurt, that really affected the game. And believe me, the Chargers played amazing. Like, it was really good to see. They did a lot of things that you wanted to see. The main thing was they let Justin Herbert run the ball a little bit. They let him scramble. They let him take charge. It was amazing to see that because I feel like they've always protected him and he would just throw the ball. And he has a rocket arm, so why not? But he's also a big guy. He can run. He can scramble. And I felt like that was really shown. And if Justin Herbert continues to do that, he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in fantasy. If he adds rushing to his game, he's going to be in the top 10 in quarterbacks in fantasy. What I will say about the Chiefs, losing Worthy hurt, and not having Rashid Rice because of his own fault also hurts. But I will say by the end of the year, they're most likely going to be in the playoffs. They're most likely going to be one of the last 4 or 5 teams in the AFC, if not back in the Super Bowl, because that's what they do. It does look bleak right now, and we don't know how long Worthy's out for. But also, the Chiefs are a team that gets better and better. I honestly thought they were going to come back and win that game at one point because the Chargers normally blow that game. But what I like to see was that when the Chargers got the ball back at the end and they needed that first down, on first down, they actually threw the ball instead of run it, which honestly the Ravens later could have maybe used that. But that was just showing that they were trying to go for the win. They were not playing safe. They were not just going to hand the ball off 3 times and punt it back to the Chiefs. No, they wanted to go out and win that game. And on 3rd and long, they called in the Chiefs made the right plays on defense. After that first pass, they got him. They got him to 3rd and long. And the Chargers called an amazing play. They just rolled out Justin Herbert. They ran verts. They rolled out Justin Herbert. And, if it was there, he was going to take it, which he did. He took it. He got the first down with his legs, was able to stay in bounds. But worst case is they sniff that out and the Chiefs tackle him. They still waste the time. They still have to use all their timeouts. So it was a smart way to be conservative, but also be aggressive. And, similar to the game before with the Eagles and the Cowboys, the Eagles had a lot go wrong for them. The Cowboys were not able to take advantage of that. The Chiefs had a lot go wrong for them, and the Chargers had a lot go right. I mean, I'm not saying the Chargers had a lot go right. The Chargers made a lot right. The Chargers were very good. They were ready for that game. However, they did take advantage of the things that were given to them, which the Cowboys were not able to capitalize. So just remember, first game of the year, everything is it's only been 1 week. Don't go alerting everywhere just because of 1 week. This is not how the rest of the year is going to pan out. It's very early, and all of this stuff is just a 1 game sample size. The next game, it was a fun game. The Buccaneers versus the Falcons. This game had a very NFC South vibe to it. The Falcons missing field goals, the Buccaneers not really looking that great and still winning the game. Now, I don't want to say they didn't look well. Emeka Mbuka, the rookie, looked amazing. And I said before, I believe he's going to be a very solid wide receiver. He looked almost elite in that game. However, the fantasy production was 2 touchdowns. He had, 4 catches for about 60 yards, which is a good day. Touchdowns are fluky. They're unpredictable. He's not getting, 2 touchdowns a game. That's a touchdown pace of 34 touchdowns. It's just not going to happen. But he did look good. I still believe Mike Evans is the one there. However, the offensive line of the Buccaneers did not look as good as it had last year. Hopefully that can gel, that can get better. They're missing Tristan Wirth. That was very obvious. The Falcons are susceptible to the pass to the running backs. They got a couple passes to Bucky Irvin and Rashad White, and Bucky actually scored on one. However, it wasn't the cleanest game by the Bucs. It wasn't the cleanest game by the Falcons, but that's NFC South football. Michael Penix actually looked pretty good. He looked like he might be taking a step forward. He was actually running. He was a little mobile, which that was new. He didn't really run at all last year. He didn't run much in college. But yeah, if they're going to let him run a little bit, that's just another threat. Also makes him more susceptible to injury, but it is a little more of a threat. It helps that offense. Bijan Robinson looked great out of the backfield as usual. Tyler Algier still getting too much work for fantasy. However, that's a different issue. I mean, Bijan did well in fantasy, but you still don't like seeing 10 carries from Algier to only 12 to Bijan. You would like to see, that split a little different. The Falcons, their kicker, Young Ho Koo, you feel bad for him. He's one of those kickers that's really good, but he also misses a lot of kicks. When he's on, he's on. When he's off, it's bad. I root for the guy. I felt bad that he missed those kicks, but it was almost when he was lining up for the one at the end to tie the game. I knew he was missing that. I could just tell. I don't know why. You just have those feelings sometimes that did not look like it was going in, and the Bucs got out with one, which somehow last year they lost both games to the Falcons, so that's good for them. Next game we have Giants versus Commanders, little NFC East battle. A lot of dark, a lot of dark picks for the Giants to actually be good this year. I don't really understand that. I don't think they really did much in the offseason. Their schedule is very hard. Like is actually ranked the hardest in the NFL, which we really can't determine that yet because nobody knows what's going to happen this year. And I don't want to overreact to 1 week, but the Giants did not look good. Russell Wilson looks very bad. The Commanders, on the other hand, looked better than I thought they would. I'm not surprised Deebo Samuel got a lot of the work. He was, there in the offseason. He was there for the training camp. Terry McLaurin will come on. I have no doubt in that. There is a tendency when these guys hold out, though. There are some statistics that show these guys end up missing time, getting hurt, which I don't want to, I would never wish injury on anybody. I'm just saying there is a chance. I also think Debo, it's early in the year. He's still healthy. He's a little up there in age. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year. He's not there either. But the Commanders, they look good. They played well. They got that Bill Krosky Merritt, who's a fantasy darling. He did well. Eckler, I was kind of surprised Eckler didn't look as good as I thought he would. I thought he would get some work, especially in these first few weeks out the gate, but Bill Krosky Merritt's coming. You just can't stop him, it looks like. So with that being said, the Giants, I I don't understand the Dayball coaching. I don't get it. I don't think he's very good. I never did. I He was riding off of Josh Allen's coattails to get his job. I don't think he really made a good offense. They haven't done much different. Their offense was malign. Their offense is not inventive. It wasn't good with Daniel Jones. It wasn't good yesterday. I saw they haven't scored a touchdown on opening day in 3 years, which that's just so bad because you're working all off season. You have so much time to prepare for opening week. And this is 3 years in a row. Dayball can't even score a touchdown. And they had a chance where they got down to the 1 yard line, didn't get in, got a penalty, got a new set of downs, didn't get in, and ended up kicking a field goal because I think Dayball got so scared that they weren't going to get points. It's just a bad team. It's just not there. They need a lot of help, especially on the line, on the offensive line. The secondary is not very good. And besides Malik Neighbors, they really don't have any playmakers. They don't have any talent. They really don't. And Malik Neighbors has been banged up already all preseason. I don't even know if he's 100%. The next game, Jets Steelers. I was sad to see Aaron Rodgers win this game. I felt like the Jets played a much better game. Justin Fields looked good, and it makes me nervous, like how good Justin Fields looked, how good the Jets played. They were sacking Aaron Rodgers. They were hitting Aaron Rodgers. They were getting to him. And the fact they still lost this game is so Jets. It was like, they were in command. They looked like the better team. They were doing everything right. And then they had that one kickoff. They fumbled the kickoff. The Steelers score, and that was the game. They just, after that, it was compiled mistake on mistake, and it was over before they knew it. And I just felt bad that the Steelers were able to get that win because personally, I just don't think Aaron Rodgers deserved it. I don't think he played that well. I know he ended up with 4 touchdown passes and his stats look good, but watching that game, he looked old. He was taking hits. If he takes 4 sacks a game, there's no way he's surviving this season. I know that for a fact he is not going to want to get hit that often. And if he's taking 4 sacks a game and that offensive line on the Steelers did not look great, they're going to be in real problems. The Jets, however, their offense did look great. Their defense was playing well at times. However, their second cornerback, opposite of Sauce, was not very good. He was getting picked on. Aaron Rodgers kept throwing at him, and was successful throwing at him. The thing with me was that the Jets looked so good. I mean, it was Justin Fields' career game. He was the most accurate he's ever been. His on target percentage was perfect. He's never played that well of a game, and they still lost. It's almost like the Jets are cursed. It is truly mind blowing how they lost that game. I do think the I do think that the Jets will do better this year, but they're not a playoff team. They're not a team that's going to do anything. I think Justin Fields will be great in fantasy. I think they'll run the ball a lot. Brees Hall looked more explosive than he did last year. Maybe he actually was injured last year. Brees Hall looked good. Um, I just don't know how many 30-point games the Jets have in them, and the fact they lost that it was a heartbreaker. The next game I had the Cardinals versus Saints. Now this game was just kind of ugly. Spencer Rattler did not look good. He threw the ball 46 times. If the answer is Spencer Rattler throwing the ball 46 times, you're asking the wrong questions. He should not be attempting that many passes. Chris Olave looked good out there when he was out there. The nervous part is that anytime he gets hit, it's like he almost goes off the field into concussion protocol anytime. He got hit in his shoulder and they put him in concussion protocol. So for fantasy, that's a little nervous. But when he's out there, he's getting targets. He's getting the plays. The Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray is like yo-yo. He's up and down. He has some great plays, some amazing passes. He can scramble, but then he makes some bonehead plays. He makes some bad throws. I mean, he missed Marvin Harrison Jr., had everybody beat. It was a very simple seam route right up the middle. Marvin Harrison, it would have legitimately been a 93-yard touchdown. They were like backed up in their own end zone. They were on their own 7. He missed him, and there was nobody behind Marvin Harrison. Like Marvin Harrison would have been able to run 90 yards untouched into the end zone. But with that being said, Marvin Harrison Jr. was moved around the formation. He got some inside looks. He wasn't just lined up as the X receiver, which I talked about. They got him some easy buckets, which was nice. Um, Marvin Harrison scored a touchdown on an inside crossing route, which was nice, just right over the middle. Not very, 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. It was very good. It was very easy. Like, those are the plays you want to see. Trey McBride, volume, got it all, does everything. He's still a stud. Everything was good there. You would just like to see a little bit more consistency out of Kyler Murray because he has the talent. He just doesn't always seem to make the right call, and he doesn't always seem to be doing the right thing. He just has a couple bad mistakes every week. And next week for fantasy, they got the Carolina Panthers. So James Conner, get ready. Running back number 1 maybe next week because that Panthers run defense is atrocious. Next up, maybe Colts Dolphins. Dolphins are probably the saddest team in the NFL right now. They look like they've already quit on McDaniels. I don't know how else to describe it. That team looks like they are not out there to play NFL football. They are checked out already and the season just started. I don't know if that's from the coach or the drama with Tyreek Hill, but those guys did not look like they wanted to be out there. They did not look like they wanted to play football. And I mean, Tua just made so many mistakes, some mostly his fault. I mean, he had a lot of bad throws, he had a lot of bad plays. But I would say it was almost a vibe thing out there. Like the Dolphins just didn't look good. They didn't look like they were playing. And to play at an NFL level, these guys have to be going 100%. You can't play defense at 75%. You can't play offense at 75%. These are all professional athletes, and any team that once they quit on their coach or quit on each other, it's over. My suggestion would be, probably week 5 after McDaniels is fired, Dolphins all in, go for it. That next week, they're going to come out so amped up. They're going to come out looking amazing. Watch. And then, eventually they'll fade again because they're just not that good. Tua's not very good. He's a very system quarterback, and McDaniel's system was figured out probably 2 years ago. It was definitely figured out last year, and he hasn't done anything to change it. They're still trying to run the same timing patterns that everybody's already figured out. It took over the league 5 years ago when McDaniel started, but he hasn't made any changes, and it's been all the same. And it's like clockwork. They already know what the Dolphins are trying to do, and if the defense knows what you're trying to do, they're going to stop it. On the other side, the Colts, hey man, Daniel Jones. I still don't believe in Daniel Jones. And like I said before, the fact that they didn't play Anthony Richardson to me is super wrong. And it wasn't because Daniel Jones, I said, was a viable quarterback. Low-end starter, maybe a backup. Against a team that quit, he did great. I think the Colts are going to be like the Saints of last year. They might look great this week, maybe next week. I don't know who they're playing. I think they actually play the Texans. They're probably not going to look great against the Texans defense. However, the Colts look great. That was probably their best game of the year, to be honest. That was it. You probably saw it right there. And Daniel Jones, the thing was Daniel Jones can run that offense. Daniel Jones' ceiling is the Colts lose Saturday afternoon, first round of the playoffs to probably the Texans because that's the Texans' time slot in the playoffs. They probably lose wild card weekend, the early game Saturday. That's their ceiling with Daniel Jones. Their floor is way lower than that. With Anthony Richardson, though, their floor is way lower. They could be picking first if they have Anthony Richardson. Or Anthony Richardson could figure it out. And the man has so many talents that if they figure it out, he could become a quarterback that could lead them to be a legit team, to have the weapons, to have the options of like a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen or something like that, which I know is probably not realistic. They probably have a higher percentage of playing Anthony Richardson 17 games and picking number 1 next year, or than they do of like Anthony Richardson becoming Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. But with Daniel Jones, they have a 0% chance of Daniel Jones becoming Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. And at best, like I said, they lose in the wild card weekend of the playoffs. Where in reality, for your franchise, the Anthony Richardson option is better. Picking first next year or finding out you actually have somebody. Because anything in between really just doesn't do anything. You'd rather pick first or actually know what you have. So that's all I don't understand. I still don't understand that. The Colts look good. I don't know if the Dolphins are actually playing football. That's still yet to be determined. So I'm not taking much from that game. I mean, I'll take all the fantasy points from it. That was great. I wouldn't be. I would think the Colts look more like the 2024 Saints than they do as like the next elite team. Next game, Bengals Browns. Oh man, this was just like bad luck. Who can have which franchise's bad luck can do better? Because like in September, the Bengals are atrocious. We all know the numbers. Joe Burrow's, I don't think he's ever won it. I think it was his first win on opening day. Their coach is like the first 2 weeks they never win. So it was great for them to get a win. The Browns were just doing Brown things. I mean, they should have won that game so many different ways. Well, I can't really say that. They should have at least had the lead so many different ways. The kicker missed an extra point for the Browns, and he mixed an easy field goal right there. That's 4 points. They lost by 1. Now, I know I can't say that because if the Bengals were down, then obviously Joe Burrow is going to try to drive. So, I know that changes the game. But the Browns should have at least had the lead at some point in that game. Not to mention the 2 interceptions that Joe Flacco threw were actually great passes. One was right to Cedric Tillman, went right off his hands, and he basically batted it into the defender. And the other interception was also right in the receiver's hands, and he dropped that, and the defender got the ball. So, you can't say those 2 interceptions were Flacco's fault. However, they happened, and the Bengals did everything they needed to win. Um, I don't think the Bengals are that good. I don't think that defense is still a problem. I think the offense will be fine, but it happened last year. They had one of the best offenses in the league, and if you don't have a defense, you're not like Joe Burrow's trying to win Super Bowls. Joe Burrow is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. Like if he has the team, he could be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. The Bengals do not have a Super Bowl caliber team around him. You don't have to have the best defense to make the Super Bowl if you have a great offense. But even those great offenses that have made the Super Bowl, they have at least an average defense, like a middle of the pack defense. You can't have just the worst defense. Like I said, it's still early. The Bengals don't normally play well early, so maybe the defense learns some things throughout the year and picks it up. And like I said, getting them a win, it was big. It was ugly, but a win is a win for them, and that's a huge thing for them to start the year with a win. So, maybe that just in itself is enough. But I I thought the Browns played a better game. Now, it was in Cleveland, and like I said, I'm not worried about the Bengals receivers either. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow will be great for fantasy. Don't worry about that. They never start out well. The fact they got a win was so lucky. Um, the Raiders versus the Pats. This was an interesting game. I kind of thought that the Pats might be in a little trouble here. Like everybody was very high on the Vrabel hiring. Like I said in my previews, I didn't buy going back to the Belichick way. I didn't buy getting the old band together will solve everything. I thought that Drake may or may not be an elite quarterback. I think the cart was before the horse there. Like I don't know about all that. I'm not saying he's bad, and I'm not saying it's over or anything like that. I'm just saying I think a lot of people anointed Drake May the next big quarterback. And I mean, last year he only won 1 game. Like everyone was talking like he had this great year last year. Because yes, in fantasy he put up some numbers. He was running all over the field. But people really mix fantasy and NFL. Out of all those starts last year, he started and won 1 game. Like you need to win in the NFL. And yesterday he didn't do either. He didn't do good for fantasy or win. The Raiders look pretty good. The Raiders looked well coached. Rabel got out coached as well. Like the Patriots were not clean. They were not disciplined. They were playing undisciplined, bad football. Um, Now, do I think the Raiders are, some magical playoff team? No, especially not in their division, not in their conference. I don't believe that. But I think they're a plucky team. I think they're going to be a hard out for a lot of teams. Brock Bowers, I mean, the man was just running free. I think the first play, he was just wide open and like just running free in the secondary of the Patriots. He did get his knee banged up. We'll see how that goes. We hope he's all right. Gentry, he scored a touchdown. Fantasy had an okay day. He didn't look explosive as he did in college. But besides that, overall, Geno Smith's a professional quarterback. That's all you can ask. He is a professional quarterback. He's going to make the reads. He's going to make throws. He's not going to do a lot of extra, but he is a professional quarterback. He can run an offense, and there's not a lot of them out there. Everybody wants like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Dan, like these guys that can literally make anything. But like a lot of teams could just use professional quarterbacks, and Geno Smith is a professional quarterback. With that being said, I think that's all I got for these early games. Like I said, it's 1 week. Don't overreact. The sky is not falling. And the NFL is a living organism. A one sample size is not enough to make legit samples. And a lot of these teams, especially teams with new coaches, new systems, it takes a little while to gel, to get them together. Offensive lines take time to work out. Defensive schemes take time to come on. I mean, last year the Eagles started 2-2. That defense was bad. Like, it was not a very good defense through the first month. They had their fifth week was their bye week. They changed Cooper DeJean into the slot. They did a couple other things, and after that, the defense was a juggernaut. Now, I'm not saying that to like say that every team's going to be like that. I'm just saying, like Bill Belichick used to always say, they don't care how they're playing in September. They want to be playing football well in December and January, and teams have to get better throughout the year. So with that, that's all I got for the early games. I'll be back for the later games.